Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I got a review of the newest Evil Dead movie, Evil Dead Rises. A reunion between two estranged sisters gets cut short by the rise of flesh-possessing demons, thrusting them into a primal battle for survival as they face the most nightmarish version of family imaginable. I'm going to be upfront and say that I'm not like the biggest fan of the Evil Dead movies. I've seen the first two movies and the remake by Fede Alvarez once a couple years ago, and I did really enjoy them all. The remake was dark and a little bit more of like a grounded, serious take, where the originals are kind of fun, campy, batshit crazy, just insane movies. When I first saw the trailer for this movie, it immediately sold me. I just thought it looked really good and really creepy. It looked like it was going to be just a crazy ride with a lot of messed up stuff in it, and I can confirm this movie is definitely messed up. It is wild. Tone-wise, it's definitely on the darker side, like the remake that came out, but there also is like some little bits of like dark comedy in there and a little bit of like kind of camp, but not too much. So it kind of feels like a weird mix of the remake and the originals, but in tone it does feel a little bit more like the remake than the originals, but it's a nice kind of little blending of both. And that's kind of a good way to describe this movie. It kind of feels fresh while also feeling familiar to the franchise. Like, it definitely feels like an Evil Dead movie to me, but it's also trying some new things without feeling like it's handicapped to the original movies or even the remake. Like, this movie takes the basic premise of Evil Dead, but changes locations and kind of changes some of the scenarios and stakes that I think just worked really well for this movie. The biggest changes being that we're not in the middle of the woods in a random cabin somewhere. We're in an apartment building, and instead of it being like a group of friends or just teenagers who don't even necessarily like each other that much, it's a family. And the family aspect of this movie, not to sound like Vin Diesel, really just makes this movie hit a little bit harder emotionally. Because in like the other Evil Dead movies, like when other people get possessed and turn into deadites, I never really felt anything, to be honest. Like, oh, that motherfucker's dead. But in this movie, when people get possessed, you're kind of like, damn, like now they're gonna have to kill this member of their family now. And it just made the movie feel and hit a little bit different than the other ones. And you get to spend a little bit of time with the family, not much, but a little bit before shit starts to pop off. And I got a decent enough attachment to them where like when everything bad started happening, it made me feel bad and just uncomfortable for them. And the horror is just really enhanced by one, amazing effects and visuals, but mainly by amazing performances. Beth, played by Lily Sullivan, is the protagonist of the movie, and I thought she did a really good job. I found it just really easy to root for her, and I just wanted her and as many people in the family to make it out as possible. Another standout for me was Nell Fisher as Cassie. She's like a young little girl, but she did a really good job with her performance in this movie, and I always felt bad whenever something happened, because they usually show her reaction to whatever's happening, obviously, and I just feel bad because just a little girl going through this absolute fucking nightmare of a situation. And then obviously she's been in all the commercials and trailers, and she's on the poster. Alyssa Sutherland is amazing as Ellie, the mom of the kids in this movie and the main deadite that we get to see in the movie. You feel bad when she gets possessed because she's just this struggling mom trying to kind of keep everything together with her family, and she just literally randomly gets possessed by a demon for no reason. She does nothing wrong. She just gets possessed, and all this crazy shit starts happening. It just makes you feel bad. At least it made me feel bad. Like, I was like, man, like, they didn't even go to a random cabin in the woods to like get drunk and do whatever. Like, she's literally just living her life and she gets possessed by a demon for no reason. It's fucked up. And that one change in making it a family just worked miracles on this movie. It really set this Evil Dead movie apart from all the other ones. Lee Cronin did an amazing job directing this movie. This movie's only an hour and a half long, and he really uses that runtime to his full potential. There's really not a second wasted. The movie has a pretty quick pace without it feeling like it's underdeveloped. It doesn't overstay its welcome, and it's not half-baked either. It's just kind of right in that sweet spot for me. For some reason, the deadite makeup in all the Evil Dead movies just kind of creeps me out a little bit, and the practical effects and makeup in this movie are absolutely amazing, but there's just something about the makeup on Alyssa Sutherland in this movie that really creeps me out. The contacts in her eyes mixed with her creepy smile is just really unsettling and the stuff of nightmares. It's really nice to see horror movies start using more practical effects again instead of just only using CGI. It just adds a little bit of an edge to the movie, makes it feel a little bit more real at times. When I think about Evil Dead, one of the first things that come to mind is extreme violence and gore, and this movie definitely has that. There's just always been something really kind of visceral and gross about the Evil Dead movies, and that feeling is definitely here. But I will say, I thought they were going to push it a little bit further than what they actually did. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of violence and gore in this movie, but I thought they were maybe going to like prolong the sequences a little bit, because a lot of the times like you'll get something really fucked up that happens, but it's usually pretty quick most of the time. Unfortunately, I think the trailers just showed way too much of this movie, because a lot of the like extremely violent and gory scenes they put in the trailer, obviously without the actual gore in it, so you kind of know what's coming when you're watching the movie, and it doesn't go like too much further than what I was expecting it to. Or maybe I'm just getting desensitized by horror movies now. I don't really know. I mean, I saw Terrifier 2 and nothing's ever going to come close to that. So maybe after Terrifier 2, I'm expecting just a different level of gore from some of these movies that's unrealistic. I don't know. But I do think in certain instances, they could have pushed it a little bit further just to really, you know, make people fucking squirm. So I guess that's a con of the movie, if you want to call it a con, is that I'm fucked up and I wanted a little bit more fucked up shit in the movie. The other con I would have is that there's a weird like kind of opening and ending sequence, without spoiling anything, that are separate from like the main story of the movie. And to be honest, I could have kind of completely done without it, just to spend more time with the actual characters of the movie. I mean, the opening is actually a good scene and I think it's effective, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it really adds much to the story and to the movie. The only thing I think it does is set up the possibility of a sequel, and I'm just not really the biggest fan of movies just blatantly setting up sequels most of the time. I would have rather just this movie feel like a standalone, and then if they want to make a sequel, make a sequel, because the way it ends just felt a little like unnecessary to me. Overall, I think Evil Dead Rise is one of the best movies in the franchise and does a great job of balancing new ideas with some classic Evil Dead vibes. The amazing performances and effects stole the show and kept me on the edge of my seat the whole way through. Evil Dead Rise is going to clock in at an 87% on the Bravo barometer. I had a great time watching this movie, and like I said 100 times, I think having family be the focus of this movie really invested me in this movie like no other Evil Dead movie has before. And thank you guys as always for checking out my review. I really appreciate it. But make sure to drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe for more videos and streams coming in the future. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace out, everybody.